What's up, guys? Welcome back. You asked for it, so here it is, the infamous corporate cruiser. You've seen it from when we built it for Mullinix, when it was leaf sprung with just our basic front kit with a coilover, and all through the build to where it is pretty much now. So we're gonna give you an in-depth look, so come check it out. All right, so starting out back, it's a pretty low profile layout. It's everything's paneled, so you really can't see much of what's going on back here, but it's got a 50-gallon fuel-safe cell. This is before we started making all our custom cells and back half kits. So the whole back of this truck is handmade from scratch. 50-gallon cell, like I said. It's got one single 39-inch spare. It's got a jack right here, jack handle back underneath here. Spare drive line. Underneath those two aluminum scoops is the transmission cooler. So there's two transmission coolers directly under those air scoops. A couple of backup lights, an amber and a clear from KC. Shocks. It's got a 2.5 coilover and 3.5 or 6 tube bypass. And that's our original sway bar that we used to make. That one, as you see, it has that big kick in it because that's where we used to mount them. We mount them all on the back now. Rear end's got a 3.5-inch housing in it, which is smaller than what we usually put in the trucks now. It's got our old 55-inch trailing arms in it. Bedside mounts, it's got our billet bedside mounts adapted to the Fiberworks bedsides, to the 14 and up conversion bedsides. Rear track width is about 91, so it's pretty big, wide rear end. Bump stops, it's got the 2.5x4 bolt-in bump stops. You notice all the hardware's 12-point RPI hardware on everything. And I think we finished this build about 6 years ago, so you can see where things have kind of changed a little bit throughout the years, but basic design is still pretty much similar to what we do now. There's a lot of cool little details, like the fuel cell vent right here is all hardline and it comes out right there. The air filter just came off of it, but it's got a nice little guard for the fuel cell vent filter right there. Looking underneath, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Got some PRP limit straps, big old plate on the bottom here to protect all that. It's got Brakeman 4-piston calipers on 13-inch rotors. So you can see it has like a similar frame rail that we do on all the trucks that we have in the shop. So that used to be just a kit that we made. It was just that frame rail to where you cut the back of the frame off at the cab, and then we made those frame kicks just to start the back half. So now we make those. It's integrated with link pivots and the whole back half of the truck. So this is where that started from. So you can see the different styles from then until now. Link pivots under here. That's our old style, just weld-on link pivot. It's just kind of like a universal link pivot kit. You can tell we do that different now too. We run the link pivot through the frame now, get more ground clearance and just a little better geometry. But this thing still works really, really good. You see the frame rails got some drain holes in them. You know, they're rusted. This thing's been used and abused for quite a few years, so a little rust never hurt anyone. But this is our old style trailing arm. It's got a main tube on the bottom, and the rest is all plate chromoly. You see, everything on this thing was nickel plated at when it was new. So it's about time for a freshen up on that. But moving along to the front, it's got the first thing you notice is the big Fiberworks clip. It's the same clip like we put on the Cop Cruiser. This one's just a little bit different, a little more trimming to get the wheel to fit, because this clip went on the truck after, it was an afterthought. The customer that we built it for wanted this clip after we already had the cab cage and everything, so we couldn't move the cab back like we did like with the Cop Cruiser. Front bumper is just simple, nice little radius tube. right below the chrome grille. Nice little valance in there. Polished skid plate. Well, it was polished at one point. And that's running our 99 to 06 long travel kit with a 2.5 coilover and a 3.5 bypass. And probably my favorite part about the front end, if you pull a few pins to undo these latches, and then the whole front end flips forward and stops right there. So this works out really good if you need to do exactly what I'm doing right now. You can walk in right here, check all your fluids, you know, check the oil and everything, and just being able to get in here and service everything. You can service the filters easily through here. You can see them in there. And just a nice way to have it nice and wide open to work on. But yeah, it's got a 402 Mullenix LS2 stroker. I think it dynoed like 390 at the rear tires or something, but you know, it runs pretty good. It's all aluminum. It's got Hale intake, Hale throttle body, and it's got a full Hale EFI in it as well. It's got Hale fuel regulator, Hale valve covers, you know, a bunch of parts from Hale. Then this is all plumbed with Earl's fittings, all the black fittings, the black hose. This is obviously before I had my hose crimper. But it's got a nice split intake that I made for it too, so it runs two of these big UMP canisters up here. One's just not enough to feed anything more than 400 or 500 horse, so we ran two of them in there to get enough air that we need. If you look down in there, you see it's got an oil cooler down in here. Pretty nice setup. CBR radiator, CBR oil cooler. All the coolers on this are CBR. It's got an Earl's power steering cooler right here. It's got the big Hale filtered reservoir there. This is just a breather for the engine, just an engine breather. The valve covers and the valley cover all hook up to this guy here. Nice little fill neck right there for the radiator. You see the whole inside of the hood is all Line-X. Just helps keep it from spider cracking. It just gives it a nice clean finished look. Got a spare belt sitting in there if you need that. You can see a big massive shock mount, bump mount set up over there. You can see the bump stops pretty much rub on the hood. So this thing has a ton of up travel. You can see how far away the bump stop is from the spindle right now. So this thing tucks tire pretty much all the way into the front clip, and the truck I think is 2 inches off the ground with the link pivot at full bump. This is also running our swing set steering. You can't really see it from here, but it's got the steering pump here from Charlie, Power Steering Solutions. It's got our swing set with the ram and the Saginaw box over here as well. So this is one of the first trucks that we put the swing set system on, and it's all the original system from, I want to say, almost 4 years ago we put it on, and haven't even changed a pump or fluid or anything yet, so it's working pretty good. And like I said, front long travel kit's our 99 to 06 long travel kit. This was, I believe, the third one. Yeah, I believe this was the second or third one that we built, went on this truck. It's been through a couple different phases. It used to have just a single coilover when it was a daily driver, and since we rebuilt it, when we caged it, you know, we cut all the old engine cage and everything off and started from scratch with the King shocks, with the 2.5 and the 3.5 shock in there. And this is their 12-inch stroke. And this truck cycles 21 3/8 of an inch of travel. So I think we have a video of that thing cycling too. So it cycles really good and feels really good in all the big holes and bar stone, stuff like that. Yeah, fairly stock firewall in there. Still got the stock wiper mechanisms in there. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it up here. I can show you how easy this hood closes. There you go. You can just put the pins back in and lock it down, and it holds itself down. Up front here, it's got some race lights. I think this is one of one. The guy Pat O'Keefe that bought this, who owns Safecraft fire extinguishers, he started making these, and we got them on this truck, and those things are insanely bright. It's kind of nice to have those at nighttime. Tires, wheels and tires. It's got Innovate G400 beadlocks, 17. It's a 5 on 5.5 pattern. It's got a 39-inch Toyo MT race tire. So this thing used to have some other tires on it, and it would slide around a lot. And the first time running these actually broke wheel studs off in the back. So these tires get insane amount of traction, and it was pretty cool driving it with these tires compared to what used to be on it. So inside, the first thing you probably notice is it's got pretty much what's left of a stock dash. You can see the sun's kind of cracking it and getting it popping up a little bit over there, but it's got a big 12-inch GPS over here, this little pod that we made that kind of bolts on to the stock dash and kind of fills in that space. Over there it's got the Hale EFI gauge that we just made a simple panel and put it where the factory gauge would be. It's got Sparco wheel and a quick release. Center console that we made with our standard cup holders, and then we added this section on after for the race radio and intercom setup. Of course, it's running our handbrake in there. This thing's just got a couple of switches for all the accessories. Fans turn on with the Hale, and then, you know, here and here we have to turn on all the other fans and lights. It's got a broken head unit in it, some GoPro mounts. I didn't run the A in the window, just kind of keep it kind of a clean, open, you know, nice pre-runner. You can see the door bars also, same style like we did on the Cop Cruiser. I didn't run a B-pillar in it. I just ran like a pretty big gusset tube here in place of the B-pillar because the seats are pretty far back to get enough room, so I didn't want to run a B-pillar back here and then have another C-pillar, you know, that close to it. So this made sense to me, and it's plenty safe for a pre-runner truck. It's got some beard seats in it. It's a pretty big seat. We don't really run these too much in any of the trucks, but super comfortable, 3-seater. You see like the floor and a bunch of back wall and stuff like that. It's all Line-X'd. Yeah, pretty clean, simple, straightforward interior. It's got a couple of KC lights for dome lights, so plenty of light at nighttime. It's got some headsets floating around in here too. So it's got 3 headsets. You could all wear headsets and talk to each other and stuff like that, or put helmets on, plug the helmets in. All that stuff's from PCI. Stock door panels. But yeah, super comfortable. It's nice. It's got the factory tilt column in it. We did a cable drive throttle pedal in it, so it doesn't have any of the fly-by-wire, and it's got manual brakes that we made the pedal and mounted our own masters, so it's all full manual system, all plumbed through the handbrake and everything, same pass-through handbrake that we run on everything. But super nice, comfortable cockpit, and this thing is like a cloud with the, you know, with the 21 3/8 front travel, and I think the rear strapped around 28, so this thing really rides really nice. It's always fun to be able to drive this thing. I've driven it a few LS fests over the past few years and given a lot of people rides and had a lot of fun in it. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's how easy it is to build a truck. You just put it on a piece of paper, and then you just scan. No, but seriously, this is our new tube chassis. This one right here is a tube chassis race truck build that we're doing. It's getting a steel cab. You've seen the cab out there. The fuel cell cradle and fuel cell setup is the same one that's on the other trucks in the shop. And then it's got our new bulkhead that we showed you, and pretty much we got the bulkhead done first. We had the fuel cell cradle already done, so we placed those two things there, and then we basically filled in the blank. So we set our wheelbase for this particular truck is 130 inches, which, like a trophy truck, normal wheelbase range is 120 to 125. So to fit that steel cab, we had to stretch it a little bit. So basically, now that this is done, we could actually take that 5 inches out of it and use this whole same platform to build a trophy truck. But this particular setup is going on that steel cab truck out here. The same bulkhead's going on 2 other trucks out there. We're doing another build that's taking this platform, and we're actually stretching it to put a 4-door cab on it. So So we're gonna make a 4-door, 4-seater tube chassis pre-runner. Basically look identical to this thing, just a little bit stretched. So basically took, some ideas from parts we already have and some chassis we've already made. Kind of just sketched out kind of what I wanted. We kept our same link geometry that's been working for us and just changed things up a little bit. Basically just getting away from starting a build that already has a stock frame. I already showed you the Tundra out that we're working on. We're getting rid of the whole stock frame, and it's just basically start with a cab only. Another truck is pretty much already built like that. So basically just makes sense for us to start this way, and it's just a much easier way of starting to build a truck. Yes, it's more money up front, but instead of paying us to take your stock truck, tear it apart, plate the frame, grind things off the frame, do all that stuff with the stock frame, we're just starting straight from laser cut tubes and plates and just starting to build a truck from nothing.
Yeah, the amount of labor that it takes to take the cab off, strip the frame, take off basically every bracket, have it sandblasted, reinforce it. You're still buying chromoly plate to reinforce it, so it's eliminating that whole process. So on top of it being a better platform, it's actually also a lot faster to build, and it's going to be stronger and lighter too. So that's a big thing for sure.
Yeah, and not dealing with a frame that's 6 inches tall, taking up all that room, and then hanging down below the rockers. So we get more ground clearance and we get more room in the cab for everything. Obviously the link pivots on this truck stick up through, and we decided not to do like a third seat on this one. We have room to do it, but being a race truck, we don't need a 3-seater. 2-seater is plenty for this thing.
Yeah, and then the factory frame's like just inferior metal. It's not even that great, so it's just really thick. It's not as strong as having a nice structured chromoly tube chassis. And so we've been working a lot on getting the layout correct, exactly how we want it to be as far as where all the tubes tie in, how it fits in the cab, and everything from geometry to the back wall and the configuration of how everything fits. Once the configuration is set with the points that we are really happy with, then we'll start extending it and changing it for different platforms, like Ryan said, making it for a 4-door, shortening it to make it more like a trophy truck or 6100 truck in the future. I would say the only thing that's a little bit unique about these trucks versus like a race truck right now is because it's a steel cab, it is a little bit smaller on the inside. So even though it has the track width of like a trophy truck, the cab itself is actually a little slimmer. So the packaging is a little tighter, but it's also pretty cool to have a steel cab on there, even though it's a race truck. So it'll work good for the luxury pre-runners. It'll work good for the guys that actually want to go racing with a steel cab truck. It's a really good platform for that. We're just continuing the evolution of the same process that we've kind of been working on. The fuel cell cradle is something that we've had. A lot of the customers have actually already used it. It's proven to be really good with the weight, and it aesthetically looks really nice too. So we like to continue using that setup. We might change a few little things, like where the dry brake is at, or adding one in this case. But very little changes will be made in the future for the fuel cell cradle.
Yeah, so that whole cell cradle, the cell, and the tubes are identical to what we already have in the shop, and we already actually cut out the cell tubes for this truck, and they're already been in the fixture and welded, so that's already done for this particular truck. And then the bulkhead, you saw, we're working on that. So basically, like when we finished that front bulkhead, then we kind of placed it in the truck to get our front, where we wanted our front wheel. So basically in relation to like the back of the tire to the cab and where that space was going to be, we set that, and then from there I knew I wanted 130 inches center to center, so 130 inch wheelbase. So basically, and this is also running 60-inch trailing arms, so we upped our trailing arm size from our normal 55s to 60, and then these aren't like a special ratio for crew cabs or anything, so these are like a standard shock location 60-inch trailing arm. It runs a 16-inch coilover and 18-inch bypass, and I think it was cycling, I wanted to strap it around 32, 33, so we're a little over 34 metal to metal right now, which is more than enough. Everyone always claims big numbers and stuff like that, like 26 and 36, but you don't really need all that, and a lot of the guys strap it up anyway. Just keeps everything a little happy, driveline angles stay happy and everything. And then imagine your wheel falling into every single hole, that actually slows you down. So this is my own personal experience, my own personal opinion. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. But imagine you had 40 inches of travel and you're going through and that your wheel's falling in every hole. That's going to slow you down. So if you're strapped up around, say, 22 and 32, then you're going to get more on top of everything and kind of skip through and kind of keep your momentum up. So that's something that I like to do. Again, that's just personal preference. It may not look as cooler with, in the air when it's jumping or drooped out or whatever, but I like to keep that around that number. The front cycle is 20. I think we're at 24.
Yeah, 24.
Metal to metal, but we could still play with the shock mounts with that to even strap it at 24. But even at 22, it's more than enough, especially with the 3.0 coilover and a 4.0 or 4.5 bypass. It's more than enough.
Yeah, and so overall, like this particular truck, it actually has it is configured a little bit around what the original sizes and dimensions of the truck would have been. It just stretched and pulled and shortened a little bit. So the front end is about 4 inches further forward as far as wheelbase, and the back is pushed forward quite a bit as well. So it
So
helps
like in
distribute
relation
weight
to the
better.
center of the front wheel to like say the cab, this is 4 inches further forward than a stock truck. And then if you go to like the side angle, you see the rear is short, like really, really far. So we probably brought that up. So just do
quite a
some math.
bit.
So stock wheelbase is 143 3/4. Then we push the front forward 4, and we push the rear forward a lot. So it's all the way down to 130. So that's why it looks like, the front of the bedside's super short. And then we built the cage around basically it being like a standard cab, even though it's an extra cab. So I didn't want to do like a B pillar and a C pillar and just kind of stack all that stuff in there that it doesn't need it. So that's why you can see like the rear down bars don't go up through the sheet metal. They just kind of dive right at the B pillar to the back half. So that's why the back tubes, you spin that around, you can see they just kind of drop through under that top cowl right there. Basically through the window opening. So obviously this being a race truck, it's not going to have windows. It's basically going to be the cab that you see there just kind of slipped over and it'll bolt on. So without a cab and glass, this thing will just be all sheet metal paneled aluminum and it'll look like, like a trophy truck. But
Yeah.
the cab will just slip over and the body panels will bolt on pretty easily.
Yeah. And it still clears all the doors and door panels. So if you absolutely wanted to put the windows back in, you could. So if, let's say, somebody wanted to configure the same truck with glass, that's definitely doable.
Yeah. So like if someone wanted this same exact platform, same wheelbase, same everything for like a luxury pre-runner, I would do the cage a little different. Obviously, I wouldn't do door bars like that to get in and out. That's just not what you want for a luxury pre-runner. And then we could change the cage to actually put a C pillar in it and a B pillar, and then we could actually have room to put a third seat in it if we wanted to. So basically this setup, we already had, the fuel cell cradle. We've already worked on the bulkhead a ton. We already have that made and done. So basically we had the bulkhead and that cell cradle, and everything in between that you see here is pretty much 2.5 days into some rough design and some placements. Now that we have everything locked into where we want it, we'll be getting some cut files from all this very soon and sending this whole thing out to laser, and we'll be doing fixtures. So that whole cab, cage, the floor, everything will be laser cut and fixtured. So basically we'll just standard get a pile of tubes and laser cut plate, prep it all, and put it in the fixtures and put a truck together.
Yeah.
So this truck will basically go from a pile of tubes on the ground to looking like a complete chassis in less than a week. right, small update on the Tundra. We got all the center console area tubes in. So all these tubes right here basically surround the bell housing of the trans, gives the center of the truck a nice structure, make it nice and easy to sheet metal the whole truck in for when we need to seal it off. We'll have an access panel on the top to get to the bell housing bolts that we need to. We'll have a big access panel here. We'll have one on this side above the floor level. So we'll have a panel there so we get to the back of the starter if need be, and to the fittings that'll be on the trans right here. And then the rest of all this will just be sheet metaled in solid. We got these two front tubes right here. So this one and that one, which will basically be our starting point for our seat mounts that we're gonna make. So we're gonna do something similar to we did in the back with like a piece of sheet metal channel across here and here, and the seat mount will bolt to that. We're gonna start off with just the regular mounts from Cobra that come with the seat, get the seat where we want it, and then we're gonna take all that out and design an electric slider that will work in those same mounts. So you can take the slider out, bolt the seat in normal, or you could bolt the slider in and then it'll work with the slider as well. And it'll be on an electric actuator, so you can go forward and back with just a flip of the switch. All right, little progress on the Jeep. The whole engine cage and shock mounts are done 100%. The next thing that we're gonna do is add bump stops off the back here and set up the limit straps. We also got the big CVs in there, so we gotta measure for our axle shaft, which is getting made. So that's all done. You can see we got a bunch of gussets in here, tying in the A-arm mounts to the engine cage, got those front and rear. But got this all back together. We're gonna mock up the oil coolers one more time. We got another light that we're gonna add on the bumper that he wanted, and then all this will come back off and get painted, powder coated, prepped, and assembled. Gotcha. All right, perfect. You're here. Tell them what we're doing.
Stuff.
Johnny on the spot. Bailey, what are we doing? Bark twice if you're in Milwaukee. All right, small update on the gray truck. We're getting the bulkhead all placed up here. So these front parts are what we use on our tube chassis truck, and we were gonna cut them short and just adapt them into the frame, but we decided to cut more stuff out and tie it in a much better way. Evan came up with some pretty good ideas, so we cut a bunch more out just to make this exactly how we want it. So yeah, looking forward to making this all one piece and filling in that void right there. That's what she said. All right, we got a pretty cool shipment of parts today. So this is the tube chassis we've been working on the computer. This is just a few of the tubes. We got a whole nother pile of tubes over there we got to prep. But like say this is like the mid plate tube like we've been showing you in these trucks where we run the bosses, run the mid plate. But overall, this is the start of one of our tube chassis race trucks that we're building. It's running our bulkhead, everything. So it's all designed in-house by us. It's got, we got a lot of time in this. We're almost done with the fixtures, so we can lay this all out on our fixture table and then start clicking all these tubes together. It's pretty cool. They come bent. They're notched. So like we showed you before, we prep all the notches. We'll prep all this. We'll prep anywhere where there's going to be weld. We do that in the lathe, or we do it with a DA sander on the table. But really excited to get these trucks together. It's going to be a pretty cool next level thing for us. So stay tuned for more. All right, another new little product. We have our quick release mounts finally showed up for our speed tool kits. So come check this out. So we get these all laser cut and bent from Alpha Laser. So basically that'll weld on there. Another one on this side. Quick release pin there. And then tie down strap point there. And this is for the speed tools kit. So we're gonna have all these burned up in the next few days, and then they're available right now for purchase. Kibbetech.com. All right, another new thing that probably caught your eye in this video is this table. So this used to be underneath that chassis over there, and then we moved it to the corner. And over the years, I've never built a base for it. So with this table here, I decided to turn this one into like a workbench. So we built this monster of a frame. Evan TIG welded the whole thing. Chase cut all the tubes. And we just built a monster of a table. I think this thing is like 5 foot by, I think it's 12 and a half. So, and it's 1 inch thick. It's drilled every 6 inches, so we could still use it as a fixture table, but gave us a nice workbench too. Yeah, it's got storage underneath for all our fixtures. I'm gonna add some small 1 inch tubes across and then put some perforated sheet on there. So then we could store all of our fixtures and parts for the fixture tables right under it, so they're right there when we need them. If you like what you see on our videos, you can be a small part of it by buying a hat. Make sure to head on over to Kibbetech.com. We got hats, glasses, shirts. We got stickers. We're gonna have some sweatshirts pretty soon. We got some camo hats on the way. We got black and gold hats. We got sunglasses. Got a bunch of cool stuff. So go check it out, Kibbetech.com.